Hi everyone, welcome to I think it's week 4, that's more completely now, for the assignment writing, and it's all about referencing. This is the big one where people unnecessarily lose marks, or just aren't given marks. Some assignments, anywhere up to 10 to 15%. There's Ellie. Just snuck in. Hi, Olivia. So I'll restart. This is where most students lose marks in assessments. Just the referencing and the formatting when you get into senior years can be worth up to 20% of your mark. So you do some basic stuff right, you're almost halfway to a pass. Don't do it, and you'd have to have done a really good job of everything in order to pass. And it's a multifaceted thing. And I'm not going to sit here and go through every referencing style and how to reference absolutely everything. We'd be here for hours. That's something that you develop through your academic years. And then when you get into year 11 and 12, it's really drilled into you. But we will go over it on quite a broad level. But we'll look into a couple of the most common referencing types and some tools to make your life easier. Okay. So again, as per usual in the chat, what does plagiarism first? And then what does academic integrity mean to you? So what do these two terms mean to you? So Kelly says using someone else's work as your own. Anyone else? Well, yeah. So, Ali says copying someone's opinion or wording and not giving them credit. What about the term academic integrity? This is a big, really big, important one. Take a minute or two to think what the term integrity means and then how that applies to your school. Give another minute to have a think. So Kelly says, doing the opposite of plagiarism. So plagiarism is stealing someone else's work. Using someone else's ideas and research and proposing them as your own. It will get you expelled from university without hesitation. If it is perceived that you intentionally plagiarize someone else's work and try to pass it off as your own, the most likely scenario is that you are either failed for that subject instantly, you may be put on academic probation, so meaning if you stepped a foot out of line, you would be gone. and even kicked out of the program if it's something really serious. Academic integrity. Why is it important to make sure that every person that graduates with a certain degree does the same amount of work and has the same level of knowledge as the previous person who graduated and as the next person that graduated? Have you ever heard the saying, it's not worth the paper it's written on? If we didn't uphold academic integrity and we allowed people to blatantly plagiarize and just copy other people's work, and students could work together and submit the same work. Imagine if a doctor did that when they were studying medicine. Imagine if a paramedic did that and they plagiarize their work in pharmacology. They go to give someone a drug, they give them the wrong drug, and they kill the person. So yeah, Ali has summed that up really nicely. Obviously, they are extreme examples, the ones that I just gave, but it's the reason why these standards exist. It's the reason why doctors have an expected level of knowledge. If they cheat in medical school, or if they're allowed to cheat in medical school, then not every doctor will have the same level of knowledge. A civil engineer that builds bridges that cheat at university, there's going to be holes in their knowledge. So it's ensuring that there's consistent knowledge and consistent standards applied across all of the universities. So everyone that says, I have this piece of paper, should know that a certain, at least a minimum amount of things. Now, plagiarism. Had a lot of difficult conversations with students at Griffith because they blatantly plagiarized. They went straight to the internet to a journal, they copied and pasted, and they didn't give recognition to the original author. Now, this is twofold because if you copy and paste something, do you have an understanding of it? Or if you just understand how to copy and paste it? So yeah, the answer is definitely no. And you're also not giving credit to the person who came up with that idea, which is the other side of the coin. So you have academic integrity on one side, and you have plagiarism on the other side. Now, who work, that's supposed to be work is completed. Ever seen someone pay someone else to do their assignment, or students work on assignments together and they submit bits from each other's assignment? Or someone sends their assignment to someone else, if you send your assignment to someone and they only change it ever so slightly and you both submit it, the software that they use called Turnitin will pick that up. So if you work on your assignment with someone else and you share the file of your assignment, that is plagiarism. Who's just sent their assignment to someone, one of their friends, because they were struggling? What do you think happens when that person doesn't change the words enough? Do you think just the person who handed in someone else's work fails, or do you think you both fail? Yeah, both people will fail. Again, some really difficult conversations with people. where one person in good faith sent their assignment to someone else, and that person just handed their assignment in and changed the name on the cover sheet. But the punishment is still the same for both people. So this is what we call collusion. So this is the one with referencing, is when you simply copy and paste work from another source and you don't give a reference to it. Can we copy and paste direct quotes? Yes, we can. So if we copy and paste a direct quote, it has to go into quotation marks and a reference on the end. But it doesn't count towards your word. Doesn't count towards your word count. Why do you think that is? Because you didn't write it. It's not your words. Yeah, exactly. So, plagiarism without reference, apparently I can't spell, is where you take someone else's ideas, you might put them into your own words, but you don't give any credit to the original author. And why is it important to give credit? Why is it important to state where you got the information from? Think all the way back to academic writing. So why is it important? If I'm reading this, that you tell me where you got your ideas from. So Kelly says they're the experts. Think on a more practical level. Bingo. So if I'm reading this and you come up with some great idea, but you don't reference it, then I know that you've plagiarized that. Depending on the subject and depending on the year level, you can tell pretty much straight away when someone has plagiarism. So, this is not such a big one in high school, but you get two very similar courses and two very similar assignments, and a person will hand in the same assignment for both courses. Not so much for high school. Okay. So I want you, who understands the process of paraphrasing? Why do we put things into our own words? What does putting something into your own words show me? Bingo, Kelly. Show, understand. So, I want you to paraphrase that text as best you can. Or even just change the wording so it's in your words, even if you don't understand. I'm sticking with the 5G conspiracy theories. Even if you paraphrase that into a sentence or two. and then chuck it into the chat. So give 3 or 4 minutes to get that done. If you're watching the recording, you can either skip ahead or paraphrase the text that's on the screen. Whilst you're writing and thinking, there's a common misconception that if you change something by 10%, then it becomes your own words. That is just wildly incorrect. Yeah, you have to rewrite it in your own words. You can't just change the words using a thesaurus. That's not paraphrasing. That just shows you know how to use a thesaurus. So, big difference between paraphrasing and changing the words. You could paraphrase that in a sentence or two. You don't have to be the same length. So I could do it like, that's all I've had to do to paraphrase that. That's now in my own words. Anyone still working on the paraphrasing? So that's how we paraphrase. We take from it the argument we want to make, and we put it into our own words. And it's probably more similar in the use of words than 10%. But that wouldn't be picked up by something like Turnitin. So give everyone else another minute to see if they can paraphrase. Yep, so Ellie's paraphrase that there. So this is the first part of academic integrity. We don't just copy and paste someone else's work. And if we do, it doesn't count in our word count. So what's the point in putting it in? Some assignments will ask you for at least one direct quote. Some things like explaining really specific scientific concepts, you can't put them into your own words. You have to put them as a direct quote. Okay, I'll move on now. So when we talk about citing, we talk about acknowledging. So we take our paraphrased bit here. So this is the quote. We've paraphrased it. We then need to put in who wrote it. So this is one part of referencing. Let's pretend I wrote that there. So Liam Thomas L 2001. So that's how we expect the original authors of pieces. We paraphrase their work, and then at the end of our paraphrasing, we tell the world who came up with this idea. And this is called citing. So this is called an in-text reference or in-text citation. And it's paraphrasing another work and acknowledging this with an in-text reference at the end. Again, this is not going to be a massive in-depth, this is what you do for every specific scenario of referencing. That we would be here for 5 or 6 hours. So this is what referencing looks like. We have the in-text citations. Now, the two main referencing styles, one uses the name of the author, the other uses the numbers of the reference list. Depends on your school or university. That's the type of, so psychology will use the American Psychological Society. Sciences will use Harvard. So there's two different kinds. But they both have in-text referencing. So these in here, they've just labeled as the number, but it does the same thing. Person wants to see who came up with this idea. They go down to the reference list and they find it. We then have the reference list itself. Who has handed an assignment where they've just copied and pasted the links? So here's my reference list. Here's a bunch of links. Yeah, so once you get up into the grade, probably beyond grade 8 now, that just won't fly. You have to actually build a reference list. And why is that important? Why is actually building the list important? What if you cite someone's work and just put a website link in there and that website link goes down? You're not really giving credit to the person that wrote it. Kelly said exactly to check the relevance. So we have two parts. Actually, I think there's 3, but we'll get to them. The in-text citations, which link to the reference list. Some styles will use author, name, and date. Others will use the number in the reference list. So, again, back to the academic writing. You need to show what research that you've done. If you've done all this research and you don't actually put it in your reference list, then what's the point? No one gets to see all your research and all this well-rounded argument that you created. So part of any assignment writing is doing a literature review, which is reading the relevant information that's out there about a topic. We avoid plagiarizing others' work. I think we would have to expel anywhere up to 10 to 15 students a semester from Griffith University because of plagiarizing and academic integrity breaches, which usually related to students sending their work to one of their friends, and their friends submitted that work. On the other end of the scale, lots of people, so Alice does it with numbers in a list. As you get into higher higher grades, they will specify which referencing style they want you to use. And different subjects have different requirements. So we're giving credit to those that came before. If you're not an expert in the field, then anything that comes out of your head has probably been read somewhere else, unless you are a child prodigy genius. So we have to give credit. We're not plagiarizing, and it shows we have read a thorough mix, that's good English, a mix of references. So I'm just going to focus on APA. So two referencing styles, Harvard and APA. Does anyone use either of these? So Harvard. APA is the American Psychological Society. I think they're up to the 7th edition now. When I was at uni, it was 4th or 5th. And I'll use APA because the last course I taught was APA. So what are the two parts of the referencing that we do? There's two main components for referencing. So what's in text? We have the citations. And the references. Which one's more important? Which one's more important, reference list or the citations in text? It was a trick question. They are probably equally as important. The citations are important because they link to the reference that is in the reference list. So if you're not citing properly, you can have all the references in the world, but you don't know where that information came from. You could perfectly cite something, but if the reference doesn't make any sense, then might as well not have the references there. So they both have to be precise. So for APA, in-text citation, the author's last name and the year of publication. So Field 2005. For direct quotations, in all of the styles, it doesn't matter. You have to include the page number so the person can find exactly where the direct quote has come from. Instead, if you can't find page numbers, use a paragraph number. If you can't find the author's name, should you use the reference? Definitely not. So Harvard is very similar to APA in the in-text referencing. So talk about the reference list. So we have in our bibliography. This is taken from a bibliography generator. But you can see here, you've got name, date, so Iberdrola 2020, a new diet to combat the climate crisis, which is the name of the article, where it was found, so this was found on a website, Ali, if it's an organization, then you can use the organization as the author's name. Because the organization, you can assume, wouldn't employ someone that wasn't qualified to write those articles. So I'll send you the referencing guide for the massive document it takes a long time to go through. Remind me at the end, I'll go send it over to you. And then we have the date accessed. So why is the date accessed on a website important? Especially just for a website. Can website content change? And there be no, yeah, so. And it's another reason why it's a bit iffy to use websites, because if the person stops paying the domain hosting, then the website gets taken down. If the information changes and someone tries to access it and says you cited the wrong thing or you're making stuff up, then you can say, well, actually it's changed since then. Because normally at the bottom of the website, it has last updated. So just covers you a bit. So we have for journal articles. So you can see there, obviously it's a journal. We have the authors listed in alphabetical order, the year, the name, the journal name is in italics. So in here, the website name or the web page was in italics. Here, the journal name. My mouse just died. That's helpful. My mouse just died. There we go. Always in the background. What works way better anyway. Let's go. So, and then you've got the page number as well as the volume number. So this is really important because it used to be that all these journals were on paper. They were in paper form. So it's not a huge deal anymore, but we still reference to this style. This is in Harvard for the reference for the reference list. So does anyone know the difference between the bibliography and a reference list? So reference list is things that you cite in text. Bibliography is absolutely everything that you read whilst coming up with the piece of work that you did. Most of your assignments will ask just for a reference list and not a bibliography. Why is accuracy important here? So it all comes back to accountability. So if you're saying that this person has said this thing, this is their opinion, you've cited them, then people need to be able to find the information to verify that's what the person actually said. Okay, let's look at Harvard referencing. So this is for a book. So you have the initials, the surname, the date, title, the publisher place, and the name of the publisher. And you need to take careful note of the punctuation. For a website, we have the name, last name, initial, the year, and then we have the title of the website in italics. We then have the organization name, the date viewed, and then we have the link to it. Down the bottom, we have a journal article. So in Harvard, we have the last name, the first initial, the year it was published, the name in single quotation marks, and then the journal name in italics, whereas for the website, it's the website name or the title of the website where you took the information from. And down here, you've got the volume. So volume 22, the edition, and then the pages that you took the information from. Or the pages in which this particular journal article will sit in that publication of the journal. So we have APA. And you can see the differences are really slight. APA has brackets around the journal article is still in italics. You have the volume, but instead of having the edition number or the issue number, you have it here in brackets, and then the pages. Does anyone know what a digital object identifier is? So it's a number that you can type in and it will bring up the article. You don't need to know the name, you don't need to know the link, you don't need to know anything else except for this digital object identifier, which is here. And it's really important to include. So for the website, for APA, it's slightly different. You have last name, then you've got the initial, but then you've got the year and the date that it was published. If you don't know that, then just put the year. So the title is in italics, then you have the organization name, and then this one here. So they are very similar, but different enough that you need to be aware of what the differences are. And this one for books, and even getting the second line indented, or not indenting the second line, APA can lose you marks. So you can see that they're ever so slightly different. And I might, I'll send out the entire guides for APA and Harvard if I can find them. So what do we need to reference? So I'm going to go away from that slide. But what do you think we need to reference? What sources of information should we reference? So if you're asked to give a bibliography, then you need to reference everything you read. If you're just asked to give a reference list, then just what you've cited in text is what you need to put in there. So we have books, journals, web pages, emails, DVDs. You can reference, there isn't Harvard and APA a way to reference just about anything. But if you take information from it, you need to reference it. So anything you use to construct an argument, and any information taken from a source that isn't your brain. The bolder the claim you make, the higher level of reference is required, because you guys are not experts in the field. So I'm going to show you this for cite this for me.com. Anybody been shown this? So this will build your references for you. So this literature review had 253 references. I would average, it would have taken me 3 or 4 minutes to build every single one of these by hand. That's a lot of time. It's 1,000 hours, 1,000 minutes. So better part of a day to put it together. So the way that we use this is we choose our citation style. So you've got APA and then you've got Harvard as well. The two big ones in Australia anyway, you won't really come across the others. So we choose Harvard. And let's say, what was one of our references up here? All we have is the link. So we click on Add New Reference. So it's a journal. So you don't have to do any of the legwork. You don't even really need to think. So you just type in, put the website in, and here is all of the information already done for you. You just have to go through and check. And then we click on Add Reference. So go down here. We'll find here's our reference. When we want to use the information in text, we just copy and paste that. So, does everyone think this might save them a bit of time later on? Instead of having to build every single one of these by hand, just use this tool. It's not against academic integrity. It's just a time-saving tool. So it probably saved me about a week of referencing on my thesis. Okay, so that's my little present for you for today. Find my right slide I was onto. So, formatting the reference list, make sure it's in alphabetical order. Or if you're using the numbers, that it's in number order, obviously. Yeah, so Ali, you do sometimes need to check the references because sometimes things go a bit haywire, but generally it's pretty good. So, alphabetical order, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the numbers that you put in text correlate to the numbers that you have in the reference list. The capitalization and the punctuation is really, really important. The titles of websites are in italics and the title of the journals are in italics. Now, you could build the world's best Harvard reference list, but do you think you're going to get any marks if they've asked you to do it in APA style? Exactly. So make sure you read which style of reference. Because funnily enough, social sciences, psychology, Haas subjects all use APA. Sciences typically use Harvard. So you need to be careful and make sure that you're actually using the right one. Okay, so I'm not going to do that now because it's nearly 8 o'clock and I wouldn't do that to you. For homework, tutorial questions, whatever you want to call them, find an article, website, and a book and compile it in APA style and send it to me via email. And then I'll show you a perfect example next week and when we start. Everyone can do that? So, one of each article, website, and a book, and cite it in APA style and compile the reference list. Or if you want, do it in Harvard. It's up to you. And then flick it through to me on email. Next week, I am not here. So this is for 2 weeks. So I will not be here next week. I am having a whole entire week off. And I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Thank you for coming and interacting. And I will see you